$1.8 million. That's the average net worth for American households between 65 and 74 years old, according to the Federal Reserve. Now, you know what the average is for households between 55 and 64? The peak earning years, when people are making the most money they'll ever make? About 1.55 million. You see what just happened there? Net worth went up after people stopped working, not down. Up. The retired group is richer than the group that's still grinding. And, I know what you're thinking right now because I thought the exact same thing. How in the world does that even work? You stop getting a paycheck and somehow you end up with more money? That sounds like something that shouldn't be real. Well, I spent a lot of time digging into this, going through the Federal Reserve data, looking at the research. And what I found is going to change how you think about retirement completely. There are 5 specific reasons this happens, and I'm going to walk you through every single one with real numbers, not theory, not opinions, real data. But stay all the way through, because reason number 5 is the one that's going to make some of you angry. It explains why you might be getting richer in retirement and still living like you're broke, and whose fault that actually is. Hit subscribe right now because I break down real retirement numbers like this every single week. No products, no selling, just the stuff that actually matters for your money. Let's get into it. Reason number 1, and this one surprises almost everybody. Your tax bill drops off a cliff when you retire. When you're working, right, Uncle Sam is taking a massive cut out of every paycheck. Federal income tax, state income tax, Social Security tax, that's 6.2%. Medicare tax, another 1.45%. By the time all of that is done, you could be losing 30–40% of your income before the money even hits your bank account, You're making $100,000, but you're taking home 65. But when you retire, the math completely changes. And I mean completely. Let me walk you through a real example. Say you're a married couple, both over 65, and you're spending about $60,000 a year in retirement. $30,000 comes from Social Security, and $30,000 comes from traditional IRA withdrawals. Now here's where it gets interesting, you see. Social Security isn't fully taxable. Depending on your total income, only up to 85% of it is taxable, and for a lot of retirees at this income level, it's closer to 50%. So instead of $30,000 being taxed, only about $15,000 counts as taxable income. Now add that to the $30,000 IRA withdrawal. That puts you at $45,000 in total income. But then the standard deduction kicks in. For 2026, a married couple filing jointly gets a standard deduction of $32,200. And if you're both over 65, you get an extra $1,650 each. That's another $3,300. So your deduction is already $35,500 right there. But wait, there's something new. The one big beautiful bill that passed in 2025 created an additional senior deduction of up to $6,000 per person, $12,000 for a married couple, on top of everything else. It phases out at higher incomes, but for most retired couples spending $60,000 a year, you're going to qualify for a big chunk of it, So, let me add this up. You spent $60,000. Your taxable income after deductions could be somewhere around $0 to $8,000. You might owe almost nothing in federal taxes. Nothing. While your neighbor, who's still working and earning that same $60,000, is paying $7, $8, maybe $10,000 in taxes, plus payroll taxes on top of that. You're keeping way more of every dollar in retirement than you ever did while working. It's like the government gave you a raise for turning 65. Pretty wild when you actually see the math, right? Now that alone would make a difference. But reason number 2 is where it starts getting, kind of eye-opening. Reason number 2, your spending drops, and it drops way more than you think. Think about how much it costs you just to go to work every day, right? Gas, parking, train fare, the lunches out, the coffee on the way in, the the work clothes. And if you're in any kind of professional job, that's not cheap. Dry cleaning, the second car you only keep because both of you commute, the house you bought near the job instead of where you actually wanted to live. Well, a major analysis of over 4.7 million households found that average spending for retirees aged 60 to 64 is about $75,600 a year. By 75 to 79, it drops to around 61,000. By 90 to 94, about 52 grand. That's a 30% decline from the early 60s to the late 80s. Your expenses don't stay flat, you know. They fall, and they keep falling. And here's something nobody really talks about. When you're working full-time, you're time poor. You pay extra for convenience. You order takeout instead of cooking. You pay someone to mow the lawn. You hire a cleaner. But when you retire, you've got nothing but time, you see. So suddenly you're cooking at home, handling your own yard, doing the little tasks you used to outsource. Is it glamorous? No. But does it save you thousands of bucks a year? Absolutely. Your mortgage is probably paid off or close to it. Your kids are grown. No more tuition. No more braces. No more travel soccer that somehow costs $3,000 a season. All that spending just stops. And most guys don't realize how much cheaper their life actually got until someone sits them down and shows them the numbers. And here's where it starts compounding on itself, literally. Reason number 3, your portfolio doesn't stop growing just because you stopped working. This is the one that messes with people's heads, you know? You spend 30 or 40 years watching the balance go up while you contribute every paycheck. Then you retire, and in your mind, the growth story is over. Time to draw it down. Time to spend the pile. But that's not how investing works. Your money doesn't sit there like cash in a shoebox. It's invested. It's compounding. And the market has averaged about 10% annually over the last 30 years. Even after inflation, that's 6 to 7% real growth. So let's say you retire with $1.3 million and you're pulling out about $38,000 a year. That's less than a 3% withdrawal rate. Meanwhile, your portfolio at 7% average growth is generating about $91,000 in returns. You're pulling 38, it's generating 91. The growth exceeds the withdrawals by over 50 grand every single year, right? The pile doesn't shrink, it grows, year after year, even while you're spending. And that compound growth is exponential, not linear. The first 20 years of saving, that's when you're doing the heavy lifting. But the last 10 or 15 years, and then into retirement, that's when the money is doing the heavy lifting for you. I've seen portfolios where someone contributed maybe 300 grand of their own money over a career, and by retirement, it was over $1 million. The rest was all compound growth, dividends, interest, capital gains, all of it just snowballing. It's like having a goose that keeps laying golden eggs, you see. You're taking a few eggs to live on, but the goose keeps laying more than you take, and eventually you've got more eggs than you started with. But wait, there's something else covering your expenses that makes all of this even more powerful. Reason number 4, Social Security is doing way more heavy lifting than you realize. Everybody likes to trash Social Security, right? It's gonna run out, it won't be there for me, I'll never see that money. Well, you know what? It's still here. It's still paying out. And for most retired couples, it covers a massive chunk of basic expenses. The average Social Security benefit in 2026 is $2,071 a month per person. That's from the Social Security Administration directly, you know. For a couple both collecting, that's somewhere between $40,000 and $55,000 a year depending on work history and when you claimed. The maximum benefit at full retirement age right now is $4,152 per month, almost 50 grand a year from one person alone. Now think about what that means for your investments. If Social Security is covering 40 or 50% of your living expenses, your portfolio only has to cover the rest. And if the portfolio only has to cover half your bills, you're pulling way less from it. And if you're pulling less, more money stays invested, compounding, growing. That's exactly why so many retirees see their balance go up. Social Security is acting like a protective shield around your investment portfolio. It's covering the floor so your investments can keep climbing, you see. And unlike your portfolio, Social Security comes with built-in inflation adjustments, the COLA increase. In 2026, it was 2.8%. Your old employer never gave you a raise just for staying alive. Social Security does. If you're getting value from this right now, if nobody has ever broken this down for you before, hit that subscribe button. I put out a video like this every single week. Actual numbers, actual research, no fluff. And every video helps you make smarter decisions with your retirement money. Now, everything I just told you, the taxes, the spending, the growth, the Social Security, all of that explains why you get richer in retirement. But reason number 5 explains why you don't feel richer. And honestly, this is the one that should bother you. Reason number 5, you're afraid to spend your own money, and the system made you that way. Research from 2 of the top retirement spending experts in the country found something that should genuinely make you stop and think. The average 65-year-old retired couple withdraws about 2.1% of their savings per year. 2.1. When most research says 3.5 to 4% is perfectly safe. That means the average retiree is spending roughly half of what they could safely spend. Half. And it goes deeper. The same research found that retirees spend about 80% of their guaranteed income, Social Security, pensions, annuity checks, the money that shows up automatically, like a paycheck, people spend. But when they have to make the decision to pull money from a savings account or a brokerage account, they freeze, they hoard, they treat savings like it's untouchable, even when the math says they can't afford to spend more. You see? And get this, a 2025 survey found that 64% of retirees worry more about running out of money than they worry about dying, more scared of the bank account hitting zero than their heart stopping. That's not rational. That's conditioning. The financial industry spent 40 years training you to save. Every quarterly statement, every contribution reminder, every article screaming you don't have enough. They built you into a saver so effectively that even when you've got more money than you've ever had in your life, you still can't turn off the switch. You still can't let yourself live. And here's the part that should really make you think. Your financial advisor knows you're underspending. They can see your withdrawal rate on their dashboard. They know you're pulling 2 or 3% when you could safely pull 3.5 or 4. But do they call you and say, hey, you've got room to enjoy yourself a little more? No. Because your growing balance is their growing fee. 1% of 1.6 million is 16 grand a year in their pocket. If you spend more and the balance drops to 1.4, their fee drops to 14 grand. They lose $2,000 a year for telling you the truth. So they let you sit there, scared, living small, while the balance that pays their salary keeps climbing. Drop a comment if you just realized you might be sitting on more money than you thought and spending way less than the math says you can safely spend. Because I think a lot of guys watching this right now are richer than they've ever been and still living like the money might disappear tomorrow. So now the big question, right? How do you actually figure out what you can spend? Here's the real math. Takes about 5 minutes. Step 1. Figure out your annual expenses. Be honest about what you actually spend, not what you think you spend. For most retired couples, it's between 55 and 95 grand, depending on where you live and how you live. Step 2. Subtract your guaranteed income, Social Security, pension, any annuity payments. Whatever shows up every month without you making a decision. That's your floor. For most couples, that's somewhere between $30,000 and $55,000 a year, Step 3. The gap between expenses and guaranteed income is what your portfolio needs to cover. Divide that gap by your total portfolio. That's your actual withdrawal rate. And here's the cheat sheet, you see? Under 3%, you are almost certainly underspending. Your portfolio is growing faster than you're drawing it down. You've got room to live bigger, and you probably should. 3 to 3.5%, you're in the sweet spot. Safe, sustainable, and your portfolio is probably still growing in most years. 3.5 to 4%, reasonable range. Keep an eye on it. Build some flexibility. Above 4%, you might want to look at the math more carefully or talk to somebody. Let me give you a quick worked example. Say you're a retired couple spending $72,000 a year. Social Security brings in $42,000 between the two of you. That means the portfolio needs to cover $30,000. You've got $850,000 in retirement accounts. 30 divided by 850, that's a 3.5% withdrawal rate. Right in the safe zone. You're fine. And if you wanted to bump spending up to $78,000, that extra $500 a month for travel or restaurants or just, living, your rate goes to 4.2%. Still manageable with a little flexibility built in. Most people never do this math, right? They just feel scared and spend less, and the financial industry doesn't discourage that because your fear is their fee. Now, here's the thing I really want you to understand. The cost of underspending isn't just financial. It's personal. It's permanent. Retirement researchers talk about 3 phases. The go-go years, your 60s and early 70s, when you've got energy, health, and a whole list of things you've been wanting to do. The slow-go years, mid-70s to early 80s, when you pull back, travel less, do less. And the no-go years, late 80s and beyond, when your world gets smaller, whether you like it or not. The go-go years are the window. That's when the trips happen. That's when you take the grandkids to Yellowstone. That's when you finally go to Italy, or drive the California coast, or just spend the Tuesday morning fishing without looking at your phone. And that window doesn't stay open forever, you see. It closes. And it closes whether you spend the money or not. The money will be there at 85. Your knees won't. Your energy won't. The people you want to share it with might not be either. So run your numbers tonight. Figure out your actual withdrawal rate. And if the math says you can afford to live a little bigger, live bigger. Because the portfolio doesn't care whether you go to Florida, but your wife does. Your grandkids do. And the calendar doesn't stop for anybody. Drop a comment. Have you actually calculated your withdrawal rate? Or are you guessing and playing it safe because 40 years of saving trained you to never stop? I want to hear where you stand. Because I think most people watching this are sitting on more bucks than they realize and spending way less than they should. Hit subscribe. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, especially someone who keeps saying, maybe next year. And if you want to know the safest withdrawal rate for your specific situation, because the old 4% rule might actually be wrong, go watch this video right here where I break that down with the real research. It's going to change how you think about spending in retirement. See you in the next one.